That's the Pistons' fourth team foul.
Hello guys, welcome back to TFD with Alvo. So let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks and what is now officially being called one of the worst trades in NBA history. The Mavs have fired Nico Harrison, and no, this wasn't just because fans were booing at home games. This was about cutting ties with a failed vision and trying to clean up a disaster that keeps getting worse. Almost a year ago, Dallas traded Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. From day one, Mavs fans hated it. They booed the team in their own building, and honestly, you can't blame them. Giving up a franchise cornerstone like Luka for an injury-prone star was always a massive gamble. The plan, reportedly, was to move on quickly. After firing Nico, Dallas looked to flip Anthony Davis. Teams like the Hawks and Raptors were said to be aggressive, showing real interest. Then Christmas Day happened. Davis suffered a groin strain, and suddenly Dallas was stuck. Do you sit him and risk killing his trade value, or do you play him and hope nothing goes wrong? Well, you already know the answer. Anthony Davis did what Anthony Davis does. On a routine defensive play in Utah, guarding Lauri Markkanen, he tears a ligament in his hand. No huge collision, no freak accident, just a normal play that somehow leads to a serious injury. Shams reports he could be out for months. The season only has about 3 months left. Now, Mark Stein says there's virtually no trade market for Anthony Davis. Yet Shams hints some teams may still be interested. Conflicting reports, total chaos. If Shams is wrong, this becomes a nightmare scenario for Dallas. Somehow, this trade just keeps finding new ways to get worse. First off, the absolute last place you want to be is in the Anthony Davis business. He's an injury-prone nightmare that can quietly sink an entire franchise. And when you look back now, the Luka trade somehow looks even worse. The Lakers moved AD at the perfect time, right before everything collapsed. It honestly feels like a CoffeeZilla crypto rug pull story, where the victim buys in right before the asset goes to zero. Since becoming a Maverick, AD has racked up 5 major injuries. He arrived with an abdominal strain. Game 1 in Dallas, he suffers an adductor injury. Then comes off-season surgery for a detached retina. In November, he misses 14 games with a calf strain. And now this latest injury. None of these are connected. They're random, freak injuries across his entire body, which perfectly sums up his career. One of my favorite pods is the Hoop Collective. Just watch Richard Jefferson's reaction when they try to guess how many times AD has been injured.
Let me say this. Anthony Davis is one of the great talents in NBA history. Like 75, future Hall of Famer. It's tough. We are old enough to remember Yao Ming. We're old enough to remember Derrick Rose, where people's bodies, for whatever reason, unlucky body types, it failed on them or it didn't allow them to maximize that. Ken Griffey Jr., one of the great baseball players of all time. Like, if he doesn't have those multiple knee injuries, but that's part of the challenge of being a professional. That's why we always, when you talk about 82 games, that's why we're like, no, don't change that. Because it used to be a pride in playing 82 games and being able to withstand the rigors. Look at, the amount of games that LeBron, Michael Jordan, Kareem, like the greatest players, they played and then their bodies, Bill Walton, like Larry Bird, their bodies broke down after a while. That stopped their ability to maximize future years and stuff. But that's also why we marvel at LeBron and a Chris Paul and Vince Carter, guys whose bodies held up. So if Anthony Davis's body isn't holding up, you look at him in the space, it may not be Yao Ming, but it's still like, damn, if he would have been held. That's what I'm saying. Yao on his foot and his ankle, like the dude just could not. And if it's like Yao Ming would have been, would have won a championship in my opinion as a big. So it's like we've seen this. Greg Oden. We saw with Greg Oden.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like some people's bodies can break down at 22. Some people's bodies can break down at 32. That's why we should marvel on the players that play as long as they do.
Okay.
You guys want to guess the number of entries for AD?
50.
Well,
50.
I was going to say, I'll take 49 to try to win the Price is Right.
The answer is 195.
Oh,
my
no.
gracious.
Now remember, this is anytime the guy is in an illness or injury of any kind.
That tells you everything. Oh my God, just look at their faces. One is pure shock, the other is straight up sadness. That pretty much sums up how everyone feels watching this situation unfold. And here's a wild side note that puts everything into perspective. AD is number 2 on the all-time injury database. Number 1 is LeBron James, and that's only because LeBron has played forever. Pure longevity. AD is actually on pace to pass him. And now the Mavericks are stuck holding what looks more and more like a crypto rug pull asset for the foreseeable future. What makes this even worse is that someone was willing to take Anthony Davis. The Mavs had multiple offers. Don't let revisionist history fool you. Mark Stein reported that the Hawks were never willing to include Zachary Reese-Share along with the expiring contracts of Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennedy, but they were absolutely willing to offer Porzingis and Kennedy. Dallas just wanted too much. Late December, Chris Haynes said the Mavs were asking for young players, expiring contracts, and draft picks. Chris Mannix added that Dallas specifically wanted the Pelicans pick Atlanta controls. I'll admit it, I even thought that might happen at one point. But once the Trae Young trade went down, all of that was out the window. Think about that for a second. The Hawks had to settle for C.J. McCollum, Corey Kispert, and expirings for the face of their franchise. Trae Young, the second most popular Hawk of all time, moved for peanuts. At that point, Dallas should have read the room. That should have been the moment where the Mavs said, okay, let's lower the asking price and get something done. But they didn't. They held firm. And now, here we are. Now you've got Shams saying maybe someone is still interested in Anthony Davis, while Mark Stein is basically saying no chance. And realistically, who is taking on that contract? Who is trading for an injury-prone AD who is injured right now and making massive money? It doesn't add up. Davis hasn't even played more than 4 games in a row for Dallas, while Luka is over in Los Angeles casually dropping 33 a night. Does Luka still have flaws? Sure, every superstar does. But Anthony Davis was the absolute worst possible player to trade him for. Just imagine if Dallas had actually opened up the trade market for Luka Doncic. Remember who this guy was at the time of the trade, a 26-year-old MVP candidate. Just led his team to the finals, under full team control. A player who gives you a top 5 offense almost by himself and somehow gets better in the playoffs. One anonymous NBA executive told The Ringer, "I'm not exaggerating here. It probably would have been the biggest haul in NBA history." And what did Dallas get? Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a pick. Not even Austin Reeves. What could they have gotten instead? Teams that could have theoretically offered 7 to 10 first-round picks include the Thunder and Spurs, even if those were long shots. But let's talk realistic teams. The Pelicans, the Jazz, the Orlick, the Rockets, the Blazers. All of those teams had the picks and the flexibility. When it comes to players, basically anyone not named Jokic, Wembanyama, SGA, or Steph Curry could have been in play. That's an enormous list. Instead, Dallas walked away with Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 1 pick. That's it. Part of the reason the Mavs kept such a high asking price for Anthony Davis was clearly an attempt to retroactively make the Luka trade look better. That was never going to happen. You can't fix a bad trade by doubling down on it. It was a dumb trade the moment it happened. And then, to make matters worse, owner Patrick Dumont fires Nico Harrison and replaces him with 2 interim general managers. No wonder no deal got done. How do you negotiate a franchise-altering trade when no one is actually in charge? 2 interim GMs? No clear authority? It's honestly a miracle anything even moved at all. But the real nightmare starts now. The Mavericks don't control their own picks until 2031. That means there's no incentive to be bad. This is a win-now situation whether they like it or not. For example, next year the Hornets own their pick, top 2 protected. It's the same situation the Clippers have been in for years. There's no reason to tank when your pick is just going to someone else. But now, like the Clippers, Dallas is anchored to an injury-prone star on a supermax contract. Look at the money. AD is owed about $54 million this year, nearly $59 million next year, and around $63 million the year after that. That means the Mavericks are officially a win-now team built around Anthony Davis. And that raises a massive question. What does this mean for Cooper Flagg? Even if Dallas couldn't get draft picks back for AD and only took expirings, they would have had cap space. And cap space is a weapon. Most fans think cap space is just about signing free agents. That's not how smart front offices use it. Cap space lets you absorb bad contracts in exchange for picks. It lets you jump into blockbuster trades as a third team. It lets you overpay restricted free agents with poison pill contracts or front-load deals so they're easier to trade later. You can even sign veterans to short-term deals with the sole purpose of flipping them at the deadline. The best front offices don't just sit on cap space, they leverage it. And the Mavs had teams willing to give them that flexibility. They blew it. Now here's the twist. Nico's vision might still get a chance to play out. What if AD gets healthy? What if Kyrie, Cooper, and AD go on some kind of miracle run next year? When AD is on the floor, he's still very good. A walking double-double. Okay, more like a limping double-double, but still. 2 30-point games against Denver. 35 in that mini revenge game in New Orleans. You can see flashes. You can even see some chemistry between him and Cooper. If they went on a real run next year with Kyrie, it would be incredible. It would rewrite the narrative overnight. But let's be honest with ourselves. AD is getting older. And for the injury-pronest star of his generation, betting on health is the worst bet you can make. The Mavericks had an exit. They didn't take it. And now they may be stuck, unless someone comes along and bails them out.
Tell me what you think. Don't forget like and subscribe.